Hello, my name is Dawn Anderson, and I, with Graham Arts, have put together this Sault School District Privacy Briefing for all of the district teachers and administrators and anyone else working in the cloud with students and parents. The purpose is to make all of the district teachers aware of the privacy requirements in BC when using cloud-based services with their parents and their students. So the first thing we want to talk about is privacy rules in BC for schools. So as you can see, we are a public body in BC, and because of this, we must protect every member's personal private information, which is part of the Information and Protection of Privacy Act from 1996. Now you might be asking, what is personal information? What I'm hoping is you can take a minute to look over some of these examples and what they could be as well. This does not include the name, job title, business address, anything else of information of an individual at a place of business. Now, what does this mean for you? If you are using something in the cloud, so for example, FreshGrade or the Google Classroom, you might need a privacy impact assessment. So that's going to be discussed in depth a little bit later. As well, you need to get the active consent of the parent or guardian. As well, if the student is old enough to understand the implications when using these cloud-based services, you have to get their active consent as well. You must make sure that participation is optional, and if somebody does not want to participate or is not provided consent to participate, we must provide alternative activities. As well, the consent must be able or allowed to expire. And a lot of times that usually happens when the student no longer is registered. As well, we have to allow consent to be withdrawn. So if someone decides that they do not want to participate anymore, or parents or guardian do not want their child participating, they can withdraw, and alternatives must be provided to that student. Lastly, we must ensure the district, school, or teachers always retain control of the data. Now, as previously mentioned, active consent. We talked about active consent of the parent and guardian and active consent of the student if they are old enough. Now, what that means, if the participant says yes, then they can participate. However, if the parent or guardian or student say no, that means that we have to provide a suitable alternative, and it cannot be punitive. As well, the alternative must have the same learning outcomes. Finally, this is a big one. If you do not receive a form back, then you have to assume the answer is no, and you must provide an alternative for that student. Now, we were talking about legal consent forms. When we talk about that, it has to include certain pieces of information on the form. So the name of the service, example, Google Classroom or FreshGrade, the educational purposes, this specific information that's going to be sent to the service about the student or parent. So what information is going to be sent to them? It also must say where the data is stored, information on the company's privacy policy, and you can usually locate that. So example, FreshGrade, you could go to their website and that will be something usually down at the bottom in regards to their privacy policy. The company's name, retention policy, the company's data retention policy, The fact that consent is optional, so you have to say that the student does not have to participate and it is not punitive. As well, the point in which it's going to expire, so either at the end of your class, at the end of the year, or when the student graduates. And lastly, the student and parent's signature. And with that signature, it has to include the date. Once you receive these forms back, they must go in the student's file so that no matter what school the student is at, the consent form is part of their file. The consent forms do not come to the school board office or go to your administrators. They go to the student's file. If you are wanting a generic template for the consent, you can get one from your principal or the district principal of innovation. Next, we're going to touch base on what a privacy impact assessment is. So, the province says that you must do a privacy impact assessment whenever a public body, so for us it's our school and our district, takes information that is entrusted to it and stores it in a cloud. Now, the PIA defines the personal information stored. It identifies where and how that information will be stored. It considers the risks involved. It talks about due notice and about how the consent will be collected and recorded. Now you might be asking, do I have to do a privacy impact assessment? And the answer is no, not necessarily. You only need one if you are using a cloud-based software service and you're storing your students' personal information or your students' parent and guardian information in the cloud. If you're unsure about something that you are using, feel free to contact the administrators at your school, the district principal of innovation, or the secretary-treasurer. Currently, in the Sauk School District, we have privacy impact assessments and consent forms for people who are wanting to use Google Apps for Education, so that includes the Google Classroom, and FreshGrade. As more PIAs and consents are developed, the district will make them available to all district principals, teachers, etc. Thank you very much and have a good rest of your year.